Hold on. Just stand there, look awesome. Okay.
Tangle on your microphone.
All right, good.
Baby and a microphone.
We've been going through this series through the Beatitudes, and we've explored so many. And this week we're just going to dive right on in, because today is a little bit complicated, because depending on which version of the Sermon on the Mount you read depends on what you ultimately get out of this. Because some of these, the next Beatitude that we have is, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. That's what some translations say. Or, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. So, which is it? Is it righteousness, like personal righteousness, like attaining and being more personal, like and closer to God and being more like God? Or is it justice, which means desiring and seeking the ways and the will and the fairness of what God wants and just for our world and the created order? When you look at both of them individually, you like, based upon the way that we connotate or denotate these words, can change up things, because we see righteous as somebody who's like above, like it's something that we want to attain to perfection. But then when you look at justice, it's something that you fight for. It's something that you a cause, or something that we're trying to see the end of. But in reality, aren't we both fighting for something very similar? For us to become more like God, and for the world to become more of what God intended it to be? So when it comes down to it, righteousness or justice, Jesus is saying, blessed are those who are looking to make things more like God wanted them to be, personally as well as in the world. God blesses those who hunger and thirst to have this desire, this want within them, that they just have to have it, this righteousness or this justice, to hunger and thirst for, because remember, I always remind you of this each week, it's blessed for, it says for, they will be satisfied. I think the path of righteousness, shooting for righteousness, is such a tough one, because it's such a battle that we have to fight personally. And it always seems like we can't do enough. We strive and we fight and we try to be good, and we try to do the right things, and we try to be more like God. And it's such a tough battle that we fight. But then on the other side, those who fight for justice, that's always a fight that's going on. There's always going to be something that we're going to be battling for. There's going to be something that we're always fighting for. And here's the truth to both of these things, is that we live in a fallen world, right? We live in a world full of sin. And because of that, there's always going to be a part of us or a part of our society that needs fighting for. But here's the good news. Jesus says, God blesses those who fight for these things, because you will be satisfied. There will be a time where you're satisfied with where you're at. There will be a time where you're satisfied with the justice that we fight for. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, and He blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, because they will be satisfied. So, let me ask you a really deep personal question. When it comes to the things that you hunger and thirst for, okay, and we're not talking about food here. When it comes to the things you hunger and thirst for, what do you hunger and thirst for? Is it righteousness? Do you have this desire to be a better version of yourself, a version of more of what God wants you to be? Or is it justice, to see God's will and the way that God wants our world to be? Do you have a desire, a hunger and thirst for those things? Or are you chasing something else? So think about that. Think about that this week. And I'll see you guys next week as we continue this series through the Beatitudes, and this series called Blessed